Alright, in this video, it's my second one on writing a polynomial from zeros. So just another example of writing a polynomial from zeros. So you're given zeros and we want to change it to factors and then create the polynomial. So right now we have -3 as one of our zeros and 3 plus I. The way this is a complex number, very similar to how we dealt with square roots. You can't have one without the other. So if you have 3 plus I, you need 3 minus I. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change these back over from zeros to their factored form. So if I have -3, that's going to be x plus 3. If I have 3 plus I, I'm going to have x minus, and then parentheses, 3 plus I. And then if I have 3 minus I, I'm going to have x minus 3 minus I. Now what I would like to do there is clean up these parentheses. So I'm going to do the same thing I did in my first video. Not worry about that x plus 3 for now, and just worry about these two pieces. So the first thing I want to do is distribute this negative sign through that parentheses, this negative sign through that parentheses. So that's going to leave me with x minus 3 minus I, x minus 3 plus I. So all there's left to do is I'm going to have to do a whole lot of distributing here. So I'm going to have to take this entire polynomial, multiply it by that. So I'm going to take the x, multiply it through. The -3, multiply it through, and the -I, and multiply it through. So I'm going to start with the x. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to line up terms that are like terms vertically, so it makes it easier when all this multiplication is done to combine like terms. So x times x is going to be x squared. X times -3 is going to be a -3x. And then x times a positive I is just a positive xi. Next, I'm going to take the -3, distribute that through. So take this -3, multiply it through there. -3 times x is -3x. -3 times -3 is 9. I'm going to line that up since there's nothing else similar with it down here. -3 times I is going to be a -3I. Since there's nothing else similar to that over here, I'm going to leave it down there. Only thing left to do is take that -I, distribute it through. -I times x. So a negative times a positive is going to be a -xi. I'm going to line it up with my other xi. -I times -3 is a positive 3i. And then -I times a positive I is going to be a negative I squared. Only thing left to do is, oh, I kind of crossed through that, is combine like terms. So I'm going to just go vertically and combine all of my like terms. So x squared, that's going to come on down. -3x and -3x is -6x. I had a positive xi and a negative xi. Since those are opposites, that's going to add to 0, so I don't need to include that. The 9 is going to come down. -3i plus 3i. Those as well. Opposites, so those are going to go to 0. We'll have to have this -I squared, which is a little bit tricky. You have to remember, I squared represents -1. So really what we have here is a -1. Well, what happens when you have two negatives? Well, you get a positive. So what we have here down at the bottom is I have x squared minus 6x and then 9 plus 1, which is 10. Very similar to my first video, only thing left to do is you have that x plus 3. We got to bring that down. So x plus 3. Only thing left to do is distribute that x plus 3 through. So x times x squared is x cubed. X times -6x is -6x squared. X times 10 is 10x. and then distribute that 3. 3 times x squared is 3x squared. 3 times negative 6x is negative 18x. And 3 times 10 is 30. Going to add and subtract like terms, so I get an x cubed minus 3x squared minus 8x plus 30. That would be my polynomial from those zeros.
With wheelchair, basketball, dance.